I'm 70 years old, and I've spent most of my life believing that if I just worked hard enough, if I just proved myself one more time, everything else would fall into place. I was wrong. I'm not saying this to warn you. I'm saying it because it's true, and because I'm running out of time to say anything at all. When I was 23, I got my first real job at a manufacturing plant outside Pittsburgh. Nothing glamorous. I worked quality control, checking parts as they came off the line. The pay was decent. The hours were long. My father told me to keep my head down and be grateful. So I did. I met Linda when I was 26. She worked in the office upstairs. Dark hair, quiet laugh. We got married 2 years later in a small church her family belonged to. I remember thinking on our wedding day that I had everything I needed. We had our first son when I was 30, Daniel. Then Sarah 3 years after that. I loved them. I need you to know that. I loved them completely. But I also believed that the best way to show that love was to provide, to work, to make sure they had what they needed: a good house, clothes, college funds, security. That's what men did, I thought. That's what being a father meant. So I worked. I took extra shifts when they were offered. I stayed late when projects needed finishing. I came in on Saturdays. I told myself it was temporary, just until we got ahead, just until things were more stable. But stable never came. I got promoted when Daniel was 7. Shift supervisor, more responsibility, more hours. Linda said she was proud of me, and she was. I could see it in her face, but I could also see something else, something I didn't have the time to examine. I missed Daniel's first baseball game because of a scheduling conflict at work. I told him I'd make the next one. I think I made 2 out of his entire season. Sarah had a recital when she was 9, piano. She'd been practicing for weeks. I planned to go. I really did. But there was a problem with a shipment, and my supervisor needed me to stay and sort it out. I called Linda from the plant floor. She said it was fine, that Sarah would understand. Sarah didn't say anything when I got home that night. She just went to her room. I told myself it didn't matter, that she'd forget, that kids are resilient, but she didn't forget. The thing about time is that you don't feel it passing. Not really. You think you have plenty of it. You think there will always be another game, another recital, another dinner where everyone sits together and talks. But there isn't. Daniel went to college when he was 18, Penn State. We drove him up together, Linda and I, helped him move into his dorm. He shook my hand when we left, shook it, like I was a business associate. I remember feeling confused, hurt even. I wanted to say something, to ask him why he was so distant. But I didn't. I told myself he was just growing up, that this was normal. Linda and I drove home in silence. Sarah left 2 years later, went to California for school. She called every few weeks. Short conversations, surface-level things. She never asked me for advice, never seemed to want my opinion on anything. I told Linda I didn't understand it, that I'd given them everything. She looked at me for a long time. Then she said, "You gave them everything except yourself." I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. I kept working. I retired at 65. Gold watch, small party in the break room, handshakes from people I'd spent decades with but didn't really know. I thought retirement would be the beginning of something, that Linda and I would finally have time, that we'd travel, maybe, or just sit together in the mornings and drink coffee and talk. but we didn't know how to talk anymore. We'd spent 40 years living parallel lives, sleeping in the same bed, eating at the same table, but we'd stopped really seeing each other somewhere along the way. She got sick 3 years ago, pancreatic cancer, stage 4 by the time they found it. She died 7 months later. I was with her at the end, holding her hand in a hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and something else I couldn't name. She looked at me, and I could see she wanted to say something, but she was too tired, too far gone. I never asked her what it was. Daniel came to the funeral, Sarah too. We stood together at the service. We hugged, we cried. But when it was over, they left, back to their own lives, their own families. I don't blame them. I see Daniel maybe twice a year now. We have lunch. We talk about his kids, about work, safe things. He's polite, kind even. But there's a distance there that I don't know how to cross. Sarah calls on holidays. We talk for 10, maybe 15 minutes. She asks how I'm doing. I say I'm fine. She says she's busy. I tell her I understand. And I do understand. I understand that I spent 50 years teaching them that work was more important than presence, that success meant sacrificing time, that love was something you demonstrated through paychecks and promotions, not through showing up. They learned that lesson well. I sit in this house most days, the house Linda and I bought when the kids were small. It's too big for one person, too quiet. I think about all the moments I missed, not the big ones necessarily, but the small ones, the everyday things, breakfast conversations, bedtime stories, sitting on the couch and watching something stupid on TV just to be together. I think about Linda, about how she must have felt all those years, raising 2 children mostly on her own, sitting at school events by herself, going to bed alone more nights than not. I think about how I believed I was doing the right thing, how I genuinely thought that working hard was the same as loving well. I was 50 years old before I realized I was wrong, 60 before I admitted it, 70 before I understood that I'd built a life I was proud of and a family that barely knew me. There's no fixing it now. Daniel has his own children. I'm a grandfather. I see them at Christmas, sometimes Easter. They're polite. They call me Grandpa. But I'm a stranger to them, a name, an obligation. I don't know what their favorite foods are, what they're afraid of, what makes them laugh. I had the chance to know those things about my own children, and I chose not to take it. That's the part that stays with me, the choice. Because it was a choice, even if I didn't see it that way at the time. Every shift I took was a choice. Every late night, every missed moment. I chose work. I chose success. I chose the idea of security over the reality of connection. And now I have a house full of things and almost no one to share them with. I'm telling you this because I wish someone had told me. Not in a preachy way, not in a way that made me feel guilty, but in a way that made me stop and think. I wish someone had said, the people you love will not wait forever. Time does not pause. Children grow up, spouses grow distant, and one day you will be 70 years old, sitting alone, wondering where everyone went. You can't get it back. That's the part no one tells you. You can apologize. You can try to reconnect. You can acknowledge your mistakes, but you can't get back the years. I don't know how much time I have left. A few years, maybe less. I'm not angry about it. I'm not even sad, really. I'm just aware. aware that I spent most of my life chasing something that didn't matter as much as I thought it did, that the voice I should have been listening to wasn't my boss's or my ambitions or society's. It was Linda's. It was Daniel's. It was Sarah's. It was the small, quiet voice that said, "Stay. Be here. Don't go." And I didn't listen. If you're younger than I am, if you still have time, I hope you listen. Not because I'm telling you to, but because you'll regret it if you don't. I know I do.